To torment me, the young lady converted my entire year's salary into supermarket overstock. She even told me arrogantly, "No one will believe you if you talk about our identity swap." My foster mother also pointed at me and scolded, "You stinky girl, don't even think about climbing up the social ladder as long as I'm here." I emptied the supermarket overnight. They didn't know that an extreme cold apocalypse was coming, and I had been reborn. Welcome to Panda Storyboard. Put on your headphones, get cozy, and settle in. Let's enjoy this story together. If you like it, don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like. Now, let's begin. Isla, this is your salary for the year, a 100,000 yuan shopping card. Miss Josephine tossed a supermarket shopping cart at me. Seeing this familiar scene, I was sure that I really had been reborn, back to 1 month before the apocalypse. Just like in my previous life, when it came time to settle my salary, Josephine converted my annual salary into a supermarket shopping cart. But my annual salary as a housekeeper in Josephine's family was 150,000 yuan, yet the shopping cart was only worth 100,000. I looked up and coldly said, "My annual salary is 150,000 yuan, as Madame personally promised. Shall I go ask Madame?" Josephine's face darkened, but before she could respond, Jade raised her hand and struck me. At this time in my previous life, my foster mother Jade had slapped me hard, causing my face to swell for 3 days. This time, I dodged it. However, Jade's scolding continued. "You stinky girl, the supermarket owned by the young lady sells high-end goods. Giving you a 100,000 yuan shopping cart is already too much. What's your status to go ask madam?" I clenched my fists, barely containing my inner rage. In my previous life, when the extreme cold hit, Josephine and the couple Jade took refuge in Josephine's family home. The couple used their physical power to monopolize all the supplies. They enjoyed luxury, while Josephine's mother and I couldn't even drink a drop of water. Eventually, we were thrown out of the house and froze to death in 50 degrees below zero weather. Before dying, I cried to Jade, "Aren't I your daughter? Why do you treat me like this?" Jade, holding Josephine, laughed and said to me, "Josephine is my biological daughter. What are you?" That moment I realized that my biological mother was actually Josephine's mother. Jade, nanny to Josephine's family, had switched me with her daughter at birth, due to her selfish motives. Now, the current Miss Josephine of Josephine's family is actually Jade's biological daughter. "If you're dissatisfied, you can leave," Josephine mocked me. "There are plenty of people outside who want to compete for the position of housekeeper in Josephine's family." I took a deep breath. Now was not the time to confront them, so I endured. I picked up the shopping cart and walked away. I went to the supermarket owned by Josephine. The supermarket employee looked at the shopping cart in my hand and hesitated. After a moment of hesitation, he finally spoke. "Sister Isla, you should go find Josephine's mother. Converting a year's salary into a shopping cart, how was one supposed to live?" I shook my head. Josephine's father was always abroad on business, and recently, Josephine's mother had also gone abroad. Otherwise, Josephine wouldn't dare be so reckless, using the unsold overstock from her supermarket to offset my salary. The employee sighed deeply and handed me a key. "Isla, this is the key to the warehouse. Move the goods whenever you're free. Everything in the warehouse might only be worth about 90,000 yuan. The supermarket has been losing money continuously, and the young lady has already stopped ordering new stock, saying she'll close the shop once the warehouse is cleared. I never expected her to forcefully use your salary to buy the goods." I took the key, but instead of going to the warehouse, I returned to the countryside. There was a bungalow in the countryside built by my foster parents, Grayson and Jade. It was their old home, and it's where I grew up. Later on, Josephine gifted them a spacious apartment, and they never returned to their old house. The bungalow was located in a secluded area, surrounded by a 10-mile radius of uninhabited land. For convenience, we dug a basement and a well back then. A month later, when the apocalypse arrived, this place would become my safe house. I hired some contractors, asking them to build protective fences within 2 weeks, reinforce all doors and windows, install solar panels for electricity, and set up a heating system. In the southern city without underfloor heating, installing a heating system was essential. We also needed to improve the basement's ventilation system and build a water storage tank. The contractor said the timeline was too tight to manage. I then doubled their pay, which finally convinced them to start work immediately. It took 2 hours to get back to Grayson's family from the countryside. When I returned to the spacious apartment of Grayson's family, Grayson and Jade were visibly upset. Jade raised her hand as if to hit me. I dodged and she pushed me, gritting her teeth as she scolded, "Where did you disappear to? Coming back so late without cooking? Do you want to starve me?" I rolled my eyes. "You talk as if you can't cook, as if you would starve without me. In my previous life, without me, they really would have starved. Nobody would have guessed that the southern city, which had never seen snow, would suddenly experience snowfall that lasted for 2 months without a break. They'd had no supplies and survived only because of the supermarket's unsold stock that I brought." Jade was stunned by my retort. Grayson also lost his temper and shouted, "If I knew I was raising an ingrate, I would have rather let you starve or die than bring you home." My heart skipped a beat. Grayson was indeed capable of such a thing. In my previous life, I hadn't managed to move all the supermarket surplus stock. I'd only taken a small portion. As the severe cold began, they squandered food recklessly. Grayson liked braised pork and asked me to cook it. Jade liked twice-cooked pork, and she also asked me to make it. Josephine liked pork buns, which I also made. While they ate, they complained that my cooking wasn't as good as a professional chef's. Later, when we were running low on food, I kindly suggested economizing on our consumption. But they accused me of abuse, claiming I wouldn't even let them have enough food. The truth was, I was the one who wasn't getting enough to eat. At first, Josephine's mother and I could eat their leftovers, but soon even those were gone. Just when we were starving to death, Grayson threw us out into the extreme cold, where we froze to death at -50 degrees. Grayson and Jade continued to rant and rave. I kept quiet for the moment, held back, and went into the kitchen to cook for them. Today, I was arranging the yard at Josephine's family's house, when suddenly, Josephine rushed over and slapped me, shouting, "You bumpkin! How dare you! You dared to steal my gemstone necklace!" I was stunned. Josephine's scolding continued. "I only had you around when I hid the necklace, and now it's gone. It must have been you who stole it. In front of my mother, you pretend to be noble, but behind closed doors, you're nothing but trash. A country girl like you doesn't deserve to be a housekeeper for our Josephine's family." I frowned. Lately, I'd been busy preparing for the apocalypse, and I'd completely forgotten about this incident from my past life. In that life, Josephine was adamant that I had stolen the necklace and insisted on calling the police to arrest me. I was detained for over half a month, until Josephine's mother returned from abroad and confirmed my innocence, which led to my release. This time she was shouting, "Call the police! Call them right now and arrest this traitor within the family." Someone else spoke up for me. "Miss, the housekeeper doesn't look like someone who would steal. Miss, let us help you look for it again." "Josephine," she snapped. "What's there to look for? I only had her with me when I placed the necklace in the drawer. Who else could it be? Could it be that you stole it?" With that, the people who had spoken up for me no longer dared to speak, and scattered. Josephine triumphantly pulled out her phone, about to make a call. I spoke softly. "Isn't the necklace lying safely in the safe?" Josephine's hand paused with her phone, a look of surprise on her face. "How could you?" She wanted to know how I knew. Of course I knew, because in my past life, it was Josephine's mother who personally found the necklace in Josephine's safe. At that time, Josephine's mother suspected Josephine was playing a trick on me, and to save some face for Josephine, she even gave the family's workers a 2-day holiday. The discovery of the necklace remained a secret, known only to Josephine's mother, Josephine, and myself. Unexpectedly, the day after Josephine's mother returned to the country, the extreme cold apocalypse arrived. At that time, I'd also brought some surplus stock from the supermarket back to Josephine's family, thinking of distributing it among the workers. The production dates were relatively recent, and since I couldn't use so much myself, I thought of sharing it with everyone. Unexpectedly, the snow kept falling, and the workers kept getting forced into holidays and couldn't return to Josephine's family. All those supplies were then monopolized by Grayson's family. Also, because the workers were on holiday, later Josephine's mother and I were driven out by Grayson's family, without anyone to help us. I stared intently at Josephine, forcefully suppressing the anger in my heart. "You just want to drive me away, don't you? There's no need to resort to such despicable means." In my past life, I'd never understood why Josephine always targeted me. Now I understood. It was because she was insecure, worried that her fake heiress identity would be exposed, worried that I would return and replace her in Josephine's family. Josephine's face turned red with rage, and in her fury, she said, "Nonsense, you country bumpkin. How dare you speak to me like that?" After speaking, Josephine even raised her hand to hit me. I blocked her hand and said, "Do you think I want to serve you? When Josephine's mother returns, I will personally resign." Hearing this, Josephine's expression softened slightly, and she snorted coldly. "You better keep your word, or you'll regret it." After speaking, she turned and left. The corners of my mouth lifted in a slight smile. To stabilize Josephine and keep her from troubling me further, I had to take action. The extreme cold apocalypse was fast approaching, and there were still many preparations I needed to make. I truly didn't have the time to engage in conflicts with her. 2 weeks later, the renovation of the family home was complete. I added air conditioning, a refrigerator, and freezers to the house. My savings were limited, so to save money, I only installed insulation in the basement. The rooms on the first floor had to rely on the air conditioning for heat. I bought an air conditioner and a refrigerator for the first floor as backups, and placed 3 large freezers in the basement. Afterward, I rented a van and headed to the supermarket warehouse. Concerned that people might notice all the supplies and covet them when the apocalypse hit, I opted not to hire movers. The rental location of the warehouse was secluded, rarely visited by people, so I moved everything slowly by myself. It took me 10 days to empty the warehouse. I stored most of the supplies in the basement and only kept a small portion on the first floor. With everything prepared, there were only 3 days left until the arrival of the severe cold weather. Anxiously, I awaited the day Josephine's mother would return from abroad. I personally went to pick her up at the airport. The moment I saw Josephine's mother at the airport, my eyes moistened, and I couldn't help but throw myself into her arms, choking up as I called her, "Madame." Josephine's mother stiffened for a moment, then asked with concern, "Isla, has Josephine been bullying you again? Don't worry, I'm back now to take care of things for you." My heart trembled. She still loved me as she always had. After I graduated from junior high, Grayson's family was unwilling to spend more money on my education and wanted me to start working. When Josephine's mother found out, she fiercely scolded Grayson's family and took it upon herself to pay for my high school and college tuition. After graduation, she praised my abilities and got me a job managing Josephine's family estate. She still didn't know that I was her biological daughter. Everything she did for me was out of genuine love. In my past life, when I confronted Grayson's family in tears, Josephine's mother had fainted from hunger and hadn't heard what Grayson's family said. She never knew I was her real daughter until her death. I wiped away my tears and smiled at Josephine's mother. "No one is bullying me. I just missed you terribly, madame." Josephine's mother chuckled. "You're all grown up, yet you still act like a child." I hugged Josephine's mother again and playfully said, "Madame, let's not go home just yet. Would you accompany me to the hospital?" She asked, puzzled, "What do we need to go to the hospital for?" I responded, "Just come with me, madam. I'll tell you when we get there." This was the first time I'd ever acted so playfully with Josephine's mother, and perhaps feeling a little embarrassed to refuse, she nodded in agreement. I quickly drove in the direction of the hospital. Tomorrow would be the apocalypse, and today I had to take Josephine's mother to do a paternity test. This time I couldn't leave any regrets. "When I was born, Jade switched me with Josephine," I explained. Josephine's mother's eyes widened in shock. "How is that possible? That can't be." "I know it sounds outrageous, which is why I didn't make it public," I elaborated. "But I've always been curious, so I took the liberty of coming to do a paternity test with you." Hearing this, Josephine's mother's agitation seemed to lessen somewhat. I knew this was hard for anyone to accept. I was aware that Josephine's mother wouldn't believe it, which is why when I picked her up earlier, I didn't mention it right away. Instead, I coaxed her to the hospital, took care of the formalities, and then explained everything to her. Josephine's mother was a composed person. She took in my words, but she didn't create a scene, nor did she immediately call Josephine's father or confront Jade. However, she was still visibly anxious and took the initiative to call the hospital staff to expedite the DNA test. I smiled faintly. This was also why I chose this hospital. Tomorrow would be too late. We needed the report today. Josephine's mother and I waited in the hospital. She remained silent, and I didn't speak either. Thinking of an excuse to persuade Josephine's mother not to return to Josephine's family, to come with me to the safe house. After a long wait, the paternity report was handed to me. I handed it to Josephine's mother, saying, Ma'am, I'm too nervous. Please, you open it. She took it with trembling hands and slowly opened it. Josephine's mother glanced at it, her pupils shrinking suddenly. Then her eyes moistened and tears streamed down her face. I leaned over and took a quick look. As expected, Josephine's mother and I were indeed mother and daughter. Isla, I'm so sorry, Josephine's mother said, as she pulled me into a tight embrace. I stiffened, my nose tingling with emotion. All my life I'd envied Josephine for having a good mother. I couldn't understand why Josephine's mother was so good to her daughter, while Jade treated me so poorly. I was always obedient and performed well in school, yet Jade and Grayson still disliked me, frequently yelling at and berating me. I'd always wished that Josephine's mother was my mom. And now, it turned out she really was. I comforted her, gently patting her back. Josephine's mother, this isn't your fault. With tears streaming down her face, she looked at me and asked, Isla, can you call me Mom? My heart trembled. Seeing her expectant gaze, I excitedly called out several times, Mom, Mom. The next second, my mother and I were embracing each other, crying bitterly. After leaving the hospital, I told my mom that I didn't want to go back to Josephine's family and asked if she would accompany me somewhere. She didn't ask where. She just nodded in agreement. That evening, I finally brought her to the safe house. Just as we arrived, Josephine called asking where Mom was and why she hadn't come home. I gestured for silence to my mom, and understanding, she told Josephine that her flight had been delayed and she hadn't returned to the country yet. Josephine then complained, Why did you let all the housekeepers take leave? Nobody is cooking for me now. Mom said, Then call Jade and have her go cook for you. I'd arranged with my mom in advance to say this to Josephine. As my lady mother, I'd given the workers of Josephine's family a holiday, and also urged them to stock up on supplies for their homes. After hanging up the phone, my mom looked at me and asked, Isla, why did you give everyone a holiday? I said, Mom, I had a dream about a heavy snowfall trapping everyone at Josephine's place. It seemed better to let everyone go home early. My mom didn't ask any more questions. She trusted me and believed everything I said. That night, Mom and I stayed in the safe house. I cooked a hearty meal for her, and we chatted late into the night. I told her many things, but I didn't tell her about the apocalypse that was coming tomorrow. I was afraid she wouldn't believe me and would insist on going back to save Josephine. The next day, I woke up early. Looking out the window, my heart sank. Snow was falling, thick and heavy, just as I remembered. The apocalypse had begun. Mom also woke up and saw the snow. It's snowing, she exclaimed in surprise. It never snows in the south. I know, I said quietly. That's why I brought you here. The snow won't stop for months, Mom. We're going to stay here and wait it out. She looked at me, confused, but seeing my serious expression, she nodded slowly. All right, Isla. I trust you. As the days passed, the temperature dropped rapidly. Within a week, it had fallen to minus 50 degrees Celsius. The news reported unprecedented snowfall and extreme cold across the country. Power grids failed, water pipes froze, and people were trapped in their homes. I watched the news with my mom, and she finally understood. Your dream, she whispered. It was real, wasn't it? Yes, Mom, I said. I needed to protect you. She pulled me into her arms. My smart girl. Thank you for saving me. Meanwhile, I knew what was happening at Josephine's family home. Grayson, Jade, and Josephine had run out of food within days. The power had gone out, and they were freezing. They'd tried to leave, but the snow was too deep, the cold too severe. I imagined Josephine crying, Jade screaming, Grayson cursing, and I felt nothing. They'd made their choices. They treated me like trash, stolen from me, abused me. Now they were facing the consequences. A week into the apocalypse, my phone rang. It was Grayson. I answered. Isla, where are you? We need help. We're starving. The power is out and... I hung up. He called again. I turned off my phone. My mom looked at me questioningly. That was Grayson, I said simply. He wants help. Are you going to help them? She asked. I shook my head. No, Mom. They never helped me when I needed it. They threw us out to die in my past life. I won't make the same mistake twice. She nodded slowly. I understand. But 2 weeks later, my phone rang again, a different number. I answered, and it was Josephine, her voice weak and desperate. Isla, please, we're dying. We have no food, no heat. Please, I'm begging you. Part of me wanted to hang up, but another part, the part that remembered who I used to be, the girl who'd wanted nothing more than to be accepted, hesitated. Where are you? I asked. At the family home. We can't leave. The snow is too deep. Please, Isla. I'm sorry for everything. Just please, help us. I looked at my mom. She squeezed my hand. It's your choice, Isla. I took a deep breath. I'll come, I said into the phone. But I'm only bringing enough supplies for you to survive until the snow stops. After that, you're on your own. Thank you, Josephine sobbed. I hung up and started packing a bag with some basic supplies. Enough food and water for 3 people for a month, some blankets, a portable heater. You're a good person, my mom said softly. No, I replied. I'm just not like them. The journey to Josephine's family home was brutal. The snow was waist deep, the wind howling, the temperature deadly. I'd bundled up in every layer I owned, but I could still feel the cold seeping in. When I finally reached the house, I found them huddled together in the living room, surrounded by broken furniture they'd tried to burn for warmth. They looked half-dead pale, shivering, hollow-eyed. Josephine saw me first. Isla. She tried to stand, but collapsed. Jade and Grayson just stared at me with desperate, hungry eyes. I threw the bag on the floor. This is all you're getting from me. Make it last. Grayson lunged for the bag, tearing it open and shoving food into his mouth. Jade joined him, and they fought over the supplies like animals. Josephine crawled toward me. Isla, please, don't leave us. We need you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked down at her. This girl who'd stolen my identity, my salary, my dignity. This girl who'd tormented me for years. And I felt pity. You made your choices, Josephine, I said quietly. Now live with them. I turned and walked away, leaving them to their fate. When I got back to the safe house, my mom was waiting with hot soup. How are they? She asked. Alive, I said. For now, she nodded. And how are you? I thought about it. Free, I said finally. I'm free. 3 months later, the snow finally stopped. My mom and I emerged from the safe house into a world transformed. The landscape was white and barren. Buildings collapsed under the weight of snow. The streets empty. We made our way to Josephine's family home. The door was unlocked, swinging in the wind. Inside, we found 3 frozen bodies, Grayson, Jade, and Josephine. They'd huddled together in the end, but it hadn't been enough. The supplies I'd brought them were gone. They'd eaten everything in the first week, I guessed. Then they'd had nothing. My mom squeezed my hand. You gave them a chance, she said. More than they deserved. I nodded. I know. We stood there for a moment in silence, then turned and walked away. We didn't look back. Outside, the sun was shining for the first time in months. The world was beginning to thaw. Spring was coming, and with it, a new beginning. My mom and I exchanged smiles. We'd survived. We'd survived together, and that was all that mattered. The apocalypse had taken everything from some people. But for me, it had given me something precious. The truth about who I was, and the chance to save the one person who truly loved me. As we walked back to our safe house, I knew that whatever came next, we'd face it together. Mother and daughter, at last.